Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I have some breaking news coming out here for you. We're going to talk about Russia again, but this time we're going to talk about the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov. That's him right there in the photo. I've got another report coming out that he's stating that Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, plans to seize Kharkiv in Ukraine. Now, Kharkiv is a major city in the northeastern portion of Ukraine. It's got well over, I believe, 1 million people that live there. It's a major city, I think Ukraine's second largest city. And we do know, I've reported many times that Kharkiv has come under attack almost on a daily at some point. In certain weeks, we'd have almost attacks every night inside of Kharkiv. And I mentioned at one point, it was a few weeks ago, that it seemed like Russia was going to go after Kharkiv at some point because they also tried to knock out the power in that region. They've attacked multiple power substations in that area of Kharkiv. So it definitely seemed at some point they were going to try to take Kharkiv. So I've got some information here, like an article that we're going to be going over in just a minute, talking about this. So what they want to do is they want to seize Kharkiv and probably work their way on the northern side of Ukraine, so that way they can start to establish what they call a sanitary zone or buffer zone. Now, I've talked about this as well. This is a huge story that came out last month. It was right after Vladimir Putin was reelected in Russia. He came out with like a victory speech, and he was also warning of like World War III with the West. And during his speech, he stated that the only way that the Russians could live in peace basically was if they created some sort of buffer zone in Ukraine, meaning a large separation of land between Russia and Ukraine, so that way the long-range weapons could not be used from Ukraine to strike inside Russian territory, which we've been seeing a lot of that over the last few months. We've seen Ukraine launching drone attacks, missile attacks inside of Russia, as far as like 1,300 kilometers deep into Russia. Okay, we're talking way deep into Russia, about a quarter of the mile or quarter of the way in on the west side of Russia. So I'm not quite sure how these buffer zones are really going to help that much, because if Ukraine is able to obtain long range weapons and now they've got these drones that can travel, I believe, like up to 2,000 or 2,500 kilometers, I don't see how a buffer zone, even half of Ukraine being taken over, is going to be enough room to protect their citizens that are on especially the western side of Russia. So I have a map pulled up here that we're going to take a look at. So let's check this out for a minute. That way you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So this is where all the fighting is mostly taking place right now. Okay, all in this red zone, these red zones here. Okay, here's Crimea down here. And Kharkiv is up here, okay, the northeastern side of Ukraine. So they've been talking about creating buffer zones, and I've mentioned this before. If they really needed a buffer zone, they'd have to take a good portion of, like, maybe even half of Ukraine, maybe up to Kiev, and take all of this region, almost the entire eastern side of Ukraine, in order for them to do that. But right now it looks like they want to advance onto Kharkiv, according to Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister. They want to make their way up here to Kharkiv next. And, I don't know. Are they going to try to take this whole region up here next, start working up here instead of pushing westward this way? I think they're going to start working this region up here, because there's been lots of attacks here in the Kursk Oblast region, Belgorod, okay, Bryansk region. All these areas here just continuously come under attack by drones and missiles from Ukraine, and they want to be able to protect their citizens. But like I've mentioned, their long-range drones and missiles can go, definitely 1,000 kilometers. Okay, we've had attacks over here. I think Samara region, way over here. Okay, look at how deep in these attacks can go, way out here. Okay, so taking even a quarter or half of Ukraine, to me, isn't enough, buffer zone. But that's what they want to do. They want to work their way more north into Ukraine and try to seize Kharkiv. So this is pretty big news to me, because Kharkiv is obviously a major city in Ukraine, and I don't think Ukraine would want that city to fall. It's, to them, I would think, would be just as important as like Kiev is. Okay, it's a major city in Ukraine. So let's go over this article and get some more information for you on Business Insider. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov signals Putin's plan to seize Kharkiv and create a sanitary zone, or also known as a buffer zone. It says here, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has strongly suggested that Russia intends to seize the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine, making him the first senior Kremlin official to identify the city as a potential target outright. During a radio interview with Russian state propagandists, Lavrov said Ukraine's second largest city had an important role, look at that, important role in Russian President Vladimir Putin's plans to create a demilitarized sanitary zone to protect Russian border regions from Ukrainian attacks. The think tank from the Institute of Study of War said in an update on the conflict on Friday. Moscow has already made it clear that it believes the only way to defend Russian territory is through a buffer zone, which would put its settlements out of reach of Ukrainian fire. Against the backdrop of drone attacks and the shelling of our territory, public facilities, residential buildings, measures must be taken to secure these territories, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said in March. They can only be secured by creating some kind of buffer zone so that any means that the enemy uses to strike us are out of range. So again, I don't really, it doesn't add up to me completely. I don't know if they're just saying this to kind of justify taking more land from Ukraine or what really is the deal there, but I don't see how taking these regions will really protect them that much if Ukraine has lots of long-range weaponry. Like I said, just their drones can go 1,000 to 2,000 or more kilometers deep into Russia. So I thought that was interesting to note there. Russia has ramped up its attack on Kharkiv in recent weeks, bombarding the city with missiles, guided bombs, and drones in what officials believe is an attempt to cut the city off from its supplies and force evacuation of civilians, Bloomberg reported, citing unnamed officials. So I commented on this when I was reporting Kharkiv coming under attack a lot, especially when their power stations got attacked just recently in the last week or two, that at some point they would have to start evacuating these civilians if they didn't have power, okay? What would happen if the power got knocked out for weeks at a time, months at a time? People wouldn't be able to stay there anymore, and they would have to leave. So I think we're going to see more attacks on Kharkiv, which we've already been seeing, and definitely more strikes on their power substations that would make it very easy for that city to collapse much quicker if they were to go after the power, okay, after the electrical systems in Kharkiv. In March, the Commander-in-Chief of Ukraine's Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky, told Ukrainian news agency Ukrinform that he could not ignore reports about Russia's plans to attack Kharkiv and that his troops were preparing for such an event. So Ukraine's getting ready to defend Kharkiv when they launch a massive attack on that city. So we are carrying out a whole complex of works on the fortification and territories and positions, installing a complex system of fences and planning to the use of our troops in event of such actions, he said. Putin has wanted to take Kharkiv since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. The city has symbolic as well as strategic value for the Russian president, as it has majority Russian-speaking population and was the first capital of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Russia lost nearly all of the territory it gained in the wider Kharkiv region in 2022 after a rapid Ukrainian counterattack resulted in one of Ukraine's most significant victories of the conflict. During interviews with the radio station Sputnik, Govorit Moskva, and Komsomolskaya Pravda, Lavrov had also said that Russia was willing to negotiate with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but that doing so would be pointless for many reasons. Russian news agency TASS reported. He added that Russia would not halt its military operation in the event of future talks. So there it is right there. Russia would not halt their military operation. So they're definitely going to continue to fight this war and push forward in Ukraine. Many people believe that they're trying to take over Ukraine entirely. It's crazy to think, though, that Ukraine's been struggling over the last few months, running out of weapons to fight this war, and they've still been able to hold on. So, Ukraine's definitely doing a pretty decent job for the most part, fighting back against Russia, who is clearly more well equipped to fight this war. They've got better weaponry all around the board. But now we just had reports that Ukraine's going to be getting this $61 billion in aid. So they're going to be getting major upgrades and more weapons. I know that the ATACMS missiles are going to start going to Ukraine again. That means long-range missiles going to Ukraine. And I don't know, are we going to see a strike on the Kerch Bridge here pretty soon too? Because they could be using these to attack that Kerch Bridge, and there's been lots of talks where over the next couple months, the Kerch Bridge going to Crimea could be completely destroyed if Ukraine were to try to target it. So we'll have to see how this goes, but very interesting again that we're hearing talks about this buffer zone. I don't know, maybe I just don't understand it correctly, and maybe some of you have better information on why this buffer zone would make any sense. Because again, if these drones can fly so far into Russia, what does creating a buffer zone of, a few hundred kilometers or something like that, what is that really going to do to protect the citizens of Russia? But yeah, that's their plan. They plan to try to go after Kharkiv next, and we're about to see major battles going on around that city. And we may be seeing some people trying to flee from Kharkiv as well, especially if the Russians are able to get close to it. We'll have to see how that goes. But let me know what you think regarding this story. Share your thoughts, concerns, and opinions down in the comment section. That's going to be it for this update. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below and hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.